So many times I got asked why I do what I do, why I use these tools that I use. And today I felt inspired to share with you a little bit of my story on why I work with astrology and yoga and music, and how do I blend them together, and why. Like my biggest why, because in the end our purpose in life, it's tied to our why. So starting with the fact that always, as I remember myself, I was very intuitive, very sensitive, and always looking into the psychological side of things and of people. Like I could be the one just observing people and trying to understand people's minds, trying to understand what is behind our behaviors. So when I was going to college, I wanted to study psychology because I was really fascinated with the human mind. It turned out that it didn't happen. By the time when I went to college, my parents said that psychology is not a good field of work in Portugal, my country. So in the end, I went to study something completely different that later on made sense. So I went to study hotel management, which now makes totally sense because I definitely have a place to manage. So in the end, it was aligned. But so I had this thing that I wanted to understand the human mind. I wanted to study the psychology of people and to see how it works. And this is how I got into astrology. I was always passionate about astrology, but more than just something mystical and out of this world knowledge is the possibility to using it as a psychological tool. So nowadays when I work with someone, when I work with a chart, it's more as a psychological tool than properly like a prediction tool or yeah, time prediction tool. Of course, we can see that through your astrological chart, but my approach is much more on the psychological level, also a little bit on the coaching level. That's something that I also studied. So I'm kind of a coach and I use it as a psychological tool. So how do you ask, how do you use it as a psychological tool? Well, because in the end, these energies that we call the signs and these planets, the planets are nothing more, nothing less than parts of our psyche that live inside of all of us. So we all have these parts, these voices, these, yeah, we call it parts. And all these parts, they have their specific energy, and these energies are archetypes that live inside all of us. We all have them. So we all have what we call the 12 signs. We all have the 12 houses, which are areas of our lives, and we all have these parts that we call the planets. So it's about finding a fine tuning between all these parts and allowing these energies to be expressed in a fluid way. Now, it's very interesting because these energies, they carry specific traits, and specific superpowers and specific curses that we have to transmute. So this is always an alchemical project and process. And yeah, even Carl Jung wrote a book about that, psychology and alchemy, and he was super tied to astrology as well. So it, astrology in the end is an alchemical journey. So, for instance, talking about what we call the Gemini energy. So, Gemini as an archetype represents the power of the mind. So, represents a very active mind, full of ideas, thoughts, and the movement that happens with these thoughts. So, it's represented by the air element. So, moving, communications, everything related to messages, to exchanges, interactions. So when we see someone that has a lot of Gemini energy in their chart, because there is a lot of mind, usually these people are very intellectual. And usually these people have very fast, sharp minds, but of course a lot of overthinking. And many times also breathing problems because air element in the body. So we also look at this through the physical body. So the element of air is tied to our breath. So Gemini and all the air signs, but Gemini, Aquarius, Libra, lots of placements always have or might have had air breath problems. So either asthma or rhinitis, sinusitis, like different stuff related to the lungs and to the flow of the air in the body. Then, for instance, just picking some examples because I can make another video about it, so that will be for the next part. But in this one, just examples. So then we have, for instance, the Scorpio energy, which we know, and if you know astrology a little bit, you know how this is a powerful energy, and many people tie it to manipulation and obsession, and they only see the shadow sides of it. But it's not just about that, because all the signs, what we call the signs, all these energies, they have polarity. That's one of the hermetic laws, the law of polarity. So they have the upper side and the down side, so to say. So when we think about this, this, for instance, Scorpio, in one sense, being representative of the dark side of ourselves, the dark side meaning not something heavy, but something that is under the cover. You don't see it. It's shadowy. So the goal is to put light on it, and once we put light on it, we get a revelation. So having lots of Scorpio in your chart means that there is a lot of you to be revealed. A lot of you that was sitting in the shadows and that you probably didn't even know you had, and then you come to reveal it. So during your life you find out lots of new things about yourself. Probably you also hold secrets because it's also secretive, and you come here to reveal. Also in the physical part of the body represents the waters, but the deepest waters. So in our waters we also talk about our blood. The movement of the blood is representative of the waters. So think about low blood pressure, high blood pressure, things that are related to the movement of the blood in the body, and even could have problems with the blood, the circulation of blood. All of that is related to the Scorpio energy, the waters, but these are the deepest waters. So also as a woman, like, and even as men, like our genitalia area, womb area, related to the Scorpio energy. So deep, think about deep waters. And also, of course, deep waters, deep emotions. So a lot of held emotions, emotions you didn't remember you had. So when we have Scorpio energy, we have a responsibility of doing a cleansing work frequently, because we absorb a lot and some things get stuck in our body, some emotions, old stuff we didn't process, and then we have to clean it because otherwise it's blocking our energetic field, and these pieces are standing here and there, and we need to cleanse it and purify it. So this is for the Scorpio energy. But of course, then many more. So when we talk about Libra, we talk about this need of the people pleasing. So in the end, all these signs, they have their own traits, and they represent personality traits that we all have in one part of ourselves, that we express in one area of our life, and some more than others. And this will be defined by what we call the planets. And then there are these interactions between these planets that are these parts. So these parts are communicating many times. And let's say that, for instance, my impulses are tied to my mental responses, so Mercury and Mars. So then every time, like, I have this thought, I act upon it immediately, and so I'm here to reduce the damage caused from that. So maybe to pause, to learn how to pause. Then different ones, for instance, it could be your emotional responses, meaning like your moon, that are tied to your impulses, meaning your Mars, your actions. So here you also have to check which energies are here, how are they communicating, and how to do the alchemical process of tuning in the instrument. Think of it as an instrument. This is how I like to look at it, because I also love music. So of course, as well, some, let's call it signs, are more prone to music than others. So having parts, planets in certain elements, in certain signs, give you more tendency to use with certain tools. So some will be more prone to music, some are more prone to dancing, some are more prone to theater, some more to working with your hands, some more to working with the earth, some are more technological, some are more hands-on, some like to build, some like to, I don't know, to gather people together. Some need privacy. So all of these they speak. And understanding the language that they speak allows you to reach a deeper understanding of yourself. And it's not that you cannot reach there by other tools. This is a tool. But for me, it helped me, for instance, to understand why did I had different voices inside my head and why one wants one thing and the other wants the opposite thing. Ah, okay, it's because my ascendant and my sun are opposites. So, of course, one is pulling me to the right and another to the left. So, these things give you deeper understanding of yourself. But, of course, this is one part of the journey. So, this is the part of the journey that we have the awareness. We are aware of all our tools, all our gifts, our purpose. But then it misses a little bit the more practical part, the more practical approach. And for me, this is where yoga entered, because it was a practice that I was already doing for many years since I started my spiritual journey, and even before, actually, I had teachers before. I was never so much of a sportsy person. I always loved more aquatic sports. I love to swim. Why? I have lots of water in my chart, so swimming was something that I always loved, but also in a gentle way. And so, yeah, different sports never called too much my attention because I was always much more of a one-to-one, more private person. You can also see that in my chart. Not so much like collective sports person, which will be someone that has lots of 11th house or Aquarius, will be more prone to do group things. And so when yoga found me, I was like a little bit resistant at the beginning, but then with the years and the practice and then the meditation and then everything clicked. And so also I can say that practicing yoga and the different approaches I've been exploring through yoga helped me to become my best version. Yes, because again, bringing astrology back, with an ascendant in fire in Aries, I had to connect with my body and to light up my fire. And definitely a movement practice that is physical helped me to do that. So I always loved as well martial arts, which is something from Mars, from Aries. So that's also tied to it. But then I always love meditative practices. So for instance, Hatha yoga was great because it was more meditative. I also felt my body in the movement, and it brings me the connection. But definitely what changed me, because I always had some personal issues, problems, and digestive issues, because then this is all tied together. So in astrology, my Chiron is in fire, and definitely my fire was my wound and my gift. So I had to heal my fire, meaning my digestive system, meaning my core. And so it was deep work of activating the core, and that's what changed. And I honestly I could not do this alone. No, because I didn't have the motivation. I always dealt with this laziness, with this self-sabotage a little bit, lacking motivation and uh, lacking the fire. Like I felt that I had no fire, even though I have a ton of fire. But as the wound was in the fire, I felt I had no fire. So I needed help to activate that fire. And from the moment I started that activation process of that fire, things just changed for sure. And now that I feel that my digestive system is working well, now that I'm working every day, practically, of course, I take rest, but listening my body and activating my core, activating my strength, I feel super much more in tune with the wholeness of my being. So using the whole aspect. So in astrology, I get the awareness of my chart, of what I need to work on with my life or what I need to work on with my body, of what are my patterns, of what am I here to work on, what is my mission, how can I serve, all of these things. I get awareness from so many different ways. But then is the yoga that helps me to put things in motion. It's the yoga that helps me to go after and to make things happen, because it represents the movement. And of course, that for you could be a different type of movement, but this definitely helps, and especially this way I use it, because it's not just the asanas. No, we prepare, we work out, and then we go into the practice. And then, of course, the music, the voice. I knew I always had this voice, but I didn't know how to use it. I was so shy. Shy because I was not using again my fire. Shy because I was tied in shame. Shame is an archetype of is a part of the Scorpio archetype. So I was blocked by shame. And so I needed to strengthen my personal power. I needed to strengthen my core to present myself. And I needed to also embrace the areas in me, that it is like play and just try and just be like a child. Seriously. So that also made a lot of difference, and stopping the comparison. So then, okay, sharing my voice through different ways, through music, sharing my voice through podcasts, sharing my voice through creating this type of content, sharing my voice in the work I use in my one-to-one sessions, sharing my voice. That was about sharing my voice. And definitely the music is a great tool of purification, because once you release your voice, you just connect with something greater. So I leave this as a tool, a tip for you. If you are called to use your voice, this is a great way to release and let go, and to connect with something greater. So for today, this is it. I hope you enjoy this podcast, and feel very free to share this with your friends, to share this with someone that needs this message, to help me grow the channel, to like, to subscribe, to share it. And please try it out, my work. Book a session with me, or book your practice with me. If you want to see change in your life, this is how you do it. Really, I can assure you that it definitely moves something in you. So I'm here to support you, and I will see you soon.